It is Tony Will. I'm back with another episode of Women In, and as always, I'm really excited. Women In is a podcast that celebrates women and the individuals in their lives who are lifting them up. You're going to hear from super cool people in my life, and they're going to share their stories to inspire others to support all the extraordinary women around them. This is a space to be disruptive, forward-thinking, and change agents for humankind. It is uncensored, fun, and curiosity-driven. This is what I'm passionate about, breaking down the barriers for my kids' generation. It's equal parts about my guests and the places we came into each other's lives, whether it be the Kalamazoo Wings, Mindfulness Elevated, Tony Will Coaching, or you happen to be in my family and friends circle. My guest today is Flaca Solano. She was born in Mesa, Arizona, but grew up in Tucson. Her parents got divorced when she was 4 months old, and her dad had full custody of her and her sister. And you all are just a year and 19 days apart. She wrote in her bio that she definitely did not have the most normal life, but it made her recognize what she had and what she could work for. With that, she went to a small town in Iowa and got her bachelor's degree as in the first generation to get a college degree while being on track and on a track and field scholarship. After that, she moved to Minot, North Dakota to get her master's degree and compete in her last year of track at the NCAA level. After graduation, she moved to Utah, and where her family now lives, and figured out a better way than to work for a team than she used to watch as a kid, which is the Utah Grizzlies in the ECHL. So, Flaca, I'm so glad you're here.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Welcome, welcome. So I start with the first question, and then I know I send questions, and sometimes I ask them, and sometimes I go off on all kinds of different places. But tell everyone how we met.
So I don't know if you remember, but I definitely remember we first met in league meetings in Las Vegas of last year. I was fairly new to the team, and there was a Women in Sports seminar, and me and my other colleague were like, let's just go to it. Let's have some fun. Let's connect with the other females in the team. And that's where I got to meet you and then some other great individuals. And then we were invited to sign up for your book club. And that's kind of more or less how we got the ball rolling.
Yeah. And not to let the cat out of the bag too much, but tell everyone what we're doing, working together on now, speaking of the ECHL Women in Sports.
Yeah, so it's not going to be in Vegas anymore. However, it'll be in Florida, but we are working on a fun way to get women involved and potentially involve some speakers on some fun events and different areas that can help bring light to women in sports. We're super pumped about it.
Yeah. So one of the things, as I read in every intro to my podcast, is my passion around the next generation, breaking down barriers for women in sports, in particular, my day job. And so, as you know, I created this Women in Sports it's like an ERG for people in human resources, like an employee resource group, but in sports, it's just a committee. And so I created this committee a year ago, and I ran it on my own. And then I said, no, and it was great. We had a good inaugural year. I launched a mentor-mentee program. We did a book study together, and then we had quarterly meetings. And then we also had the event in Las Vegas that you spoke of. This year I said, there are so many talented women, and I don't want to be doing this on my own. So I said, I'm opening this up, and took applications for any woman that wanted to throw their hat in the ring to volunteer to be on this committee. And you were one of them.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I knew there was going to be a handful of applications thrown at you, so I'm very excited to have been selected as one, and definitely put Utah Grizzlies out on the map.
So tell me, like, what's your interest? And I know you wrote this in the application, but tell me what made you interested in volunteering your time on this committee.
Yeah, I'm super passionate about women in sports. So a small background about me is I grew up boxing, and as boxing sport is very male dominated. So having my dad coach me, he was very tough on me, and so made me have very thick skin. And growing up as a female in a male dominated area, it was kind of hard to show feelings, I guess you could say. And so I wanted to make women in sport feel very open about their feelings. Like, you're going to have tough days and that's going to be okay. So being able to talk about it and help promote it and make sure that other females are comfortable with where they're at, that's my biggest goal, is just making sure that they understand that you're going to have tough days and that you're going to get looked at different, but it's going to be okay because you're a female in sport.
Exactly. Exactly. Boxing. Wow. Okay. Let's talk about this. How did you end up getting interested in boxing? Where did that start?
So my dad used to box when he was younger, and his dad coached him. And I was very dedicated with track and field. And so my sister gave it a shot to try boxing, and she was like, "This is not for me." And then I was like, "Hey, you know what? I'll give it a shot. I'll try it out." And I loved it. It was so much fun. And so my dad goes, "Do you want to try competing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's compete. Let's go." And so we got to travel to California, to Louisiana. I have 9 titles, 9 belts. So I've been around the boxing community. It's a lot of fun. And right now I help my dad coach his professional boxers. And about a couple weeks ago, I was actually asked to help co-coach on Top Rank. And Top Rank is one of the top one of the best well-known boxing promotion companies. And so just being asked to be a part of that was so big and so much fun. And I got to meet so many fun boxing idols that I never thought I would ever be able to meet. So that's kind of more or less where it started. And I don't see boxing leaving my life anytime soon.
I'm so intrigued by this. It's badass. So I just need to say
Thank you.
that. That's really cool. Nope, messing with you. Tell me, okay, I want to know about the 9 belts. Are they in certain like fights, or teach all of us? Because I've never had a boxer, let alone a female boxer, on my podcast. You're probably and I've never even known one. So you are the first, and I'm loving this.
Yeah.
So like, are the belts for certain um, competitions, or are they? I don't know. Teach me.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So it definitely depends. So the belts are definitely for tournaments. There's not necessarily a specific belt for a specific weight class. And so I'm 25 now, and I've been boxing since I was 13. So a lot of more boxers, if you ask them, they've been boxing for a lot more longer. And so I kind of started a little bit late. So I would have had more belts if I started earlier, but yeah, typically the belts are just from tournaments, and you get put in a pool of all of the individuals in your weight class, and your name kind of gets shuffled around. And if it's a 4-day tournament and your name gets pulled first, you have to fight the first day. If you're lucky, you'll get the bye the first couple of days and you won't have to fight till the 3rd day. And then you just kind of go through the bracket and you're fighting for that belt. So yeah, a lot of the belts came from tournaments. Sometimes I actually have one belt that came from one, like not even a tournament. It's just like it's called a smoker. And it's just a 1-day show where you just go, you get chosen to fight on this fight card. And if you win, you win the belt. So very simple. So
Okay, so yes, well, it does not sound simple, because it sounds like you have to. So only one person wins the belt, right?
yeah.
Okay, and you have 9 of them.
Yes.
Wow, that. How many women boxers are there out there? I mean, it's got to be a small pool of you. Are you fighting the
Yeah.
same ladies?
I have fought a handful of the same females in sparring. So when it comes to sparring, that's more just like your practice fight. And I've sparred the same females and even men, the same, go around every time. But when it comes to the actual fights, I was fortunate enough to have been able to travel. So I actually have not fought the same female more than once. It is kind of like in Utah specifically, there's not very many female boxers. So my first very fight was actually in the heart of Salt Lake. And typically in boxing, you can only have a 5-pound weight change. So if you're supposed to fight at, let's just say 120, you can come in at 115 or 125 and be good. So my first fight, the girl actually came 9 pounds heavier than me. And so I handed my boxing book and handed it over to my dad, who was my coach. and was like, I'm not fighting. She's over the weight capacity. I'm scared. And it's my first fight. So I had every right to be scared. And my dad goes, you've got it. You've been training over a year for this. Like, go in, make us proud. And I'm like, okay, you're right. Let's go. So he wrapped my hands and I was able to fight. Stopped the girl in the second round, and she accidentally broke her. I don't want to say accidentally because I'm fighting for a reason. Broke her nose, and she has not fought since. So I really hope she is doing okay. However, that is kind of that's the sport of boxing, is you sign up to fight. And in Utah, like, I have had some fights fall through just because I get told, yeah, there's going to be a female in your weight class, and we go in to weigh in and she's not there. So I've had a handful of fights actually fall through just because of the pool size is really small.
And is it by age group too?
Yes, typically. Usually after 18, you tend to get put with the adults, or if you have more than 10 fights and you're under 18 years old, you do get put in a different age group. So, yeah.
Okay. Tell me about the training. So I have a two-part question. How do you
Okay.
train, and your dad's your coach? How
Yes.
how does that relationship work? Because I love my dad, but if he were to coach me in a sport, I might I don't know, like, maybe you and your dad aren't like that, but tell
Yeah.
me. I'm intrigued.
So the training is so difficult. I don't know if you've ever taken like a boxing or kickboxing class. It's very difficult. The cardio is top tier. And you definitely have to watch what you're eating just to make sure you're staying on track with your weight. You do have to take in a little bit more water than your average day, just because at the end of the day, when you go train in the boxing gym, you are dropping strictly water weight. So you want to make sure you're staying hydrated. So typically your training looks like, 3 rounds, and each round is 3 minutes. So typically you go jump rope, you shadow box. And shadow boxing is just moving your hands around, kind of warming up in front of the mirror. Then you go hit the bag. You could hit the uppercut bag. Some gyms have a dummy. You can practice on the dummy. And then afterwards, you would go to your coach, and your coach would do what's called mitts. And it's basically your one-on-one time to work with your coach on, okay, are your elbows in? Like, let's work on some combinations. And then usually you close out with some core. And the core is pretty top rank. They you want to make sure your core is pretty cut, because we have body shots, and if you want clean body shot, you can go down. So core is definitely up there. But as far as the relationship with my dad, I've always been very tomboy growing up. I loved skateboarding. I loved, doing gardening, playing with the weeds and dirt and stuff like that. So I've always had that father-son relationship with my dad, if you will. And he's always been, you guys know, I grew up with just my dad, and so that's all I knew. And he was very understanding as far as like, okay, you're a female, you're going to have hard days, kind of like what I was kind of talking about before. And so he kind of understood that, and he took that very, to the heart. Like, you're going to have hard days, and I'm not going to understand that. I'm not going to feel what you're feeling. So let's pivot and maybe not do sparring today because you're feeling some type of way, or let's kind of pivot and do something else. So he does have a really good way of, I'm coach in the boxing gym, and then at home I'm dad. It does kind of work out now that I'm out of the house on my own, so I'm able to go to the gym and just go to my own house. But back then it was kind of difficult just to kind of like, oh, my dad's yelling at me, when in all reality he's my coach, and my coach is yelling at me. So it was kind of tough to understand that at first, but now it's so easy to just kind of, that's my coach, that's my dad. So it does take some time though.
I'm sure he's so proud of you with winning as many belts as you have. And even when you don't win, I'm sure he's so proud of you. And what's your dad's name?
Lawrence.
Hello, Lawrence. You're listening to your daughter on a podcast, which is a pretty cool thing too. So I hope so. You raised a good one. You really did.
Thanks, Dad.
Here. Yeah. Thanks to Dad. Tell me, what injuries have you had to contend with over the years in boxing? Because it's such a high contact sport. I mean, it's a lot of contact. So what
Yeah.
injuries?
Believe it or not, from boxing itself, I have not had an injury, thankfully, knock on wood. I've actually really only gained injuries from track and field with shin splints. Yeah, which is interesting. So I actually was recruited as a hurdler, and they changed me to be a heptathlete, which was 5 events indoor and then 7 events outdoor. So my body definitely took a toll. And so shin splints was one, and then just kind of understanding when I have to run 800 compared to just doing shot put. So that's kind of more or less the injuries that I underwent. But as far as boxing, I was very thankful and very blessed to not have received anything thus far. So
Okay, I was going to ask about what sports within track and field, which events you did. So hang on, what is it? What's this called? It was a heptathlon?
yeah. Yeah. So it's a pentathlon for indoor and then a heptathlon for outdoor.
Okay, and when you do all of them together, is it a name or is it just both the pentathlon and the heptathlon?
That's usually what it's called. I have heard people call it multis just because you're doing multiple events, and instead of saying heptathlon or pentathlon or all of that, you just say multis. So, but yeah, that's typically what they're called.
So what do you like better? Okay, so let me ask you two
Mm.
questions. What is your favorite event in track and field that you feel like you love the most, you're most successful at, and do you like track and field or boxing better?
Oh, that's a tough question. Okay, so your first question, my favorite event is javelin, and I just love throwing the spear. It's just something about it. It's just so relieving. And I feel like as a multi, like I'm decent, like I'm okay. If you would have asked me when I first applied to college and got my track and field scholarship, I would have said hurdles. I love hurdles, but I've noticed I'm just not as successful in hurdles as I am in other events. So I really love javelin. Now, if I'm not doing multis, I really love triple jump. And that's probably where my shin splints came into play. So um, now, as far as my favorite between the two, that's really difficult. I think when I was in college, that's all I had was track and field because that was my life. And now that I've
Mhm.
officially graduated and I'm like, I'm not going to the Olympics for track and field, I have a better chance of potentially going to the Olympics for boxing. I would definitely say boxing. And especially because you don't hear about women in boxing necessarily, and I'm so passionate about like growing that title, and so I would definitely say right now is boxing.
Okay. You said Olympics. So we're
Yeah.
going there. You have an Olympic
Okay.
dream. Okay.
Yes.
It's on Okay, you have an Olympic dream. Okay, I'm tell me more. This is so awesome. So you're working towards becoming an Olympian in boxing.
I would like to. So, when I was a little kid, I really wanted to go to the Olympics for track. And then I was very humbled when I was competing at the NCAA level. And I realized I just love track and it's not necessarily for me. So, I would like to try and go to the Olympics for boxing. And with my dad, I know he's going to give me the best training. And I feel as if I can definitely do that. And right now, my training is on hold because I did have a medical scare back last November, actually on Thanksgiving. So I haven't really been able to work out. I actually just got the clearance about a month ago to finally be able to like kind of run and kind of walk. So I've been kind of doing like at home body stuff. So slowly in the works of getting back in, but eventually I do want to fulfill that dream of going to the Olympics for boxing.
Wow, really cool. I love these big goals. Like I call these
Thank
BHAGs,
you.
big, hairy, audacious goals.
I
And
love
that,
that.
yeah, yeah. And actually, will I be talking about at league meetings? I'm keynoting at the league meetings this summer, but I don't, I'm going to talk about how to 10X, but that's a 10X goal too. Like
Okay.
something really big. Yeah. So good for
True.
you. Like just
Thank you.
and that's why sports is so important at any age. And we both work in sports. So let's talk about that. So you work in hockey. So anyone that isn't aware of the Utah Grizzlies, they're in the same league as the Kalamazoo Wings of the ECHL. And but we're in different divisions. Utah's out west, and we're in the central. And once in a while, we'll play each other, but
Hmm.
it's very rare.
Yeah.
But I did come out to Utah 3 years ago when we played, and and it's so beautiful out there where you live. but you weren't working for the Grizzlies quite yet. But tell me about what drew you to hockey and what drew you to Salt Lake and why working in that sport.
Yeah, so Salt Lake was I lived in Salt Lake when I was younger. We went from like Arizona to Texas and Utah. And Utah we always felt like was home. It was gorgeous. The mountains were like in a fishbowl. We're surrounded by mountains. And but I think we always went back to Arizona just because we weren't fans of snow and we just loved the heat. So being in Iowa, I definitely had to get used to snow. And then moving up more north to North Dakota, I had no choice but to get used to the snow. And so it just kind of became a part of me. And it did work out that my aunt was already living here and has been living here. And so once I graduated high school and went to Iowa, my dad was like, I'm just going to go to Utah and be with your aunt. And that's my sister and be with family. And I'm like, absolutely. Why not? And so when I finally graduated with my master's, my dad was like, well, where do you want to go? Like, where do you want to eventually end up? And I was like, I don't know. I always had Arizona in the back of my mind. And I always had Utah. And he goes, well, why don't you just try Utah? And I'm like, okay, yeah. So I'm applying to jobs. And then he actually sent me a it was service and retention at the time. He sent me the job posting and he goes, you should try working for the Grizzlies. And I was like, that's a professional hockey team. Like, do you actually think they would accept me? Like, I just graduated. He goes, yeah, but you graduated with your master's. And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try. So I applied and it kind of worked out because we used to come to games when we were younger and we always had a blast. It was so much fun. And then plus there's obviously fights. So like, that's perfect too. So when I applied for service to retention, they were also doing interviews for groups account executives. And so there was a girl who actually is no longer with the team, but she's still one of my great friends. She took the service and retention position. And then they told me, hey, you're going to either be business to business or groups. And so based off my interview, they were just kind of saying, we think you would excel in groups. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. And so they told me about like what essentially I would be doing. And I'm like, I love working with kids. I love calling schools like, hey, come sing the national anthem. It's more selling like the experience of it. And so it's been a blast. I love every moment of it. And, now that we have our new VP, John, he's been super accommodating and taking me under his wing. And it works out because he actually came from Tucson, which is where I grew up. So we kind of clicked there. So it's been really nice. And just the family here is just, they're so goofy. And then the dogs come in the office. So it's been a blast. So I'm super excited to have this second year.
Awesome. Yeah, it's what a fantastic story, and there's a lesson in that. Just because it's a professional sports team, you don't have to like. We hire a lot of entry level people, and
Mm-hmm.
you are selling the experience. What we sell is sexy. It's fun. People love sports. This isn't
Exactly.
selling checking accounts, which is where I started my career, or insurance or anything. And we all need these things, but
Yeah,
sports is fun.
so much
So
fun.
talk about, tell everyone if they're not watching this, what is your ethnicity?
I am Hispanic, so I have family from Mexico. I went to go visit family from Mexico, not my nana, which is my grandma. She's from Chihuahua, so I am Hispanic.
And are you bilingual?
I am.
That's awesome. And so
Yeah.
do you use that skill set that you have as being bilingual as part of your job with the Grizzlies?
Actually, yes. There's been times where there's customers or say fans that just come and they only speak Spanish, especially because where our arena is, it's in the heart of West Valley and there's a lot of Spanish speaking individuals. So I definitely come into play there. It also helps that we have concerts here. And so there's times where people come in through the wrong door and they're like, hey, we want to buy tickets and they're speaking Spanish. So everyone's like, Flaca, come on, come over here. So it's been definitely helpful. And then it actually kind of worked out in my favor that we have a G League basketball team out of the arena as well. And they reached out to me and was like, hey, we're hosting our Hispanic Heritage Night. We'd love to have you as the Spanish speaking host for the game. And I was so nervous. But I was like, let's do it because you never know what this could lead to. And it was so much fun. It actually happened to be on my birthday and it was just a blast. It was so much fun. And honestly, if you can learn Spanish, it's going to help you out so much more. So definitely keep it in your back pocket.
That's really cool. I mean, and
Yeah.
it's such a talent. So talk to me what it's like to be a woman in sports, working in professional hockey is 97% white male. And you're a woman, and not only are you a woman, but you're a Latino or Mexican woman. So what is that like for you? Has there been any challenges, or has it been because of the location of the Grizzlies and the community, has it been warm and inviting? What's your experience been?
Believe it or not, I actually haven't had any difficult transitions or encounters as far as being a Hispanic in a male dominated sport, which is honestly, I'm very thankful. The only thing that I would say I thought would be a little different was the way Hispanic Heritage Night was ran. Um, to them, it's just a theme night. And so when I was hired on, they were like, "Hey, do you want to take it on?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yes, please." And I went above and beyond and was like, let's make it into a car show with lowriders, and let's have like folklorico dancers or bachata and salsa dancers as like the intermission versus like just a cheer team or just the regular dancing. Like, let's actually gear it towards the theme night. And so I reached out to one of the schools that's actually predominantly Spanish speaking, and for them to come out and sing Cielito Lindo instead of God Bless America. So Cielito Lindo is basically a song that helps bring all cultures together, whether you're from Spain, Colombia, Mexico. It's a song that brings everyone together. And I got the approval to, instead of doing God Bless America, they sang that instead. And the kids, being Hispanic, you probably don't grow up with hockey. You grew up with probably running and soccer, which is fantastic still. And so to see those kids that mainly speak Spanish go and sing on the actual ice, they were so happy, and so they were having so much fun, and just their families coming to support them and actually go to a hockey game for the first time was actually pretty cool and pretty neat. And so afterwards, my coworkers, especially in game ops, they were just like, I didn't realize like we can actually go above and beyond with Hispanic Heritage Night. So that would probably be the only like hiccup that I maybe encountered with being Hispanic was, let's make this Hispanic Heritage Night that much more bigger. Like, why are we just doing bare minimum? Like, actually, we're in the heart of where the Latinos live, so let's utilize it. So, and Kevin, our CEO, our unfortunately he's no longer with us.
That's
He was all on board. He loved what I had to pitch him, and he was like, let's do it. So they've been very accommodating and very like welcoming as far as like my ideas, so which is really nice.
Yeah, I want to take just a second to talk about Kevin Bruder. He was the president of the Utah Grizzlies. He passed away suddenly on Mother's Day at age 56 of a heart attack. He was also the chairman of our board for the ECHL. And so I sat on exec committee with him. And I'm glad you pointed this out about Kevin, because and I get chills just talking about, hopefully I won't start crying because I haven't yet cried on my podcast, but maybe it's me and you, sister. But yep, it's gonna happen. Kevin is the reason why I am the first female on the executive team for the board of governors. He called me and asked me to be um, the first woman ever in the league's history, and it means a lot to me because for your generation, my kids' generation, and it was not easy to get that, but and he's a true ally, and I'm not at all surprised at his warmth and his excitement to bring this night, the Hispanic night, to life. And he will truly be missed. And I'm still in shock. I know his funeral was last week, and so I'm glad you brought that up because it really makes a difference who we work for or work with in these
Yeah.
spaces where we are minorities.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely loved Kevin, and like you said, he was very warm and definitely wanted to see those who don't necessarily see the light to definitely excel and be successful. And that was definitely him. So, but yeah, definitely
Yeah.
miss him.
Yeah, it's such a loss for the
Yeah.
Grizzlies, for the league as a whole, and as a
Uh,
friend, I would text him like when they would put me on an airplane that was like a puddle jumper, and I'm like, I might die in this, so just know, and we would laugh. Just a great guy, great family man.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. It's just shocking. Like to
Yeah,
be 56 years old is just, it's too young. So I'm
exactly.
glad you brought that up. So tell me about, I mean, Kevin's a man in your life who helped shape who you are, your dad. Tell me about the women in your life. Who are the women that have made you who you are, Flocka?
That's a great question. So, and I think this is another reason why I'm so passionate about it is I actually, believe it or not, did not grow up with very many females in my life. I didn't have my mother. My sister was only a year and 19 days older. She's a great person to look up to. She has 3 kids of her own. Um, but as far as like people who shaped me into the person I am, I would honestly probably just say my aunt.
Mhm.
She was kind of like that mother figure that stepped in when we needed help. And when Mother Nature took its course for us, she was there to kind of explain things. And when we moved to Utah, she had her doors open, and that just kind of built the relationship with me and my cousins to just be that much more thick. So honestly, I would honestly just give it to my aunt because I grew up with so many males and not many females. That's where my aunt comes into play.
Yeah. And what's your aunt's name?
Her name is Rachel.
Rachel. Well, hopefully she's listening to this too. So,
Yes.
oh, I love that. Okay, tell me what motivates you. Like when you started in pro sports and you're a female boxer, you're I got a multi track and field. I wrote it down so I could, but what motivates you to be that driven?
Honestly, the first thing that kind of motivates me is being first generation. Just being first generation with my bachelor's and then first generation with my master's. I was like, I can't stop here. I got to keep going. That's just my time to be better. And that's when I was like, I want to work for a professional team, whether it's basketball, hockey, whatever it is. And so I think that's exactly where it comes into play is just being first generation for everything and setting the bar already to be high for like if and when I have kids, I want them to know you can do this as a minority. You can do this if I have a daughter, she's a female. And as a female, as a minority, you can do it. Like, yeah, you're going to get, knocked down, probably more than others, but that's just going to make you have thick skin and understand where you come from and understand that if I do this, I'm going to get that much more recognition. So that's more or less what motivates me to be the person I am.
What do you think motivates your generation? Because you're Generation Z, correct?
I think I'm 2000s. I'm not entirely sure that that's so many.
Yeah, I think you're Gen Z. You might be on the cusp. So, what do you think motivates your generation? I'm Gen X, so I was born in late 70s, like 78, and but it's different. Like my generation is more like, well, I don't know how to explain my generation. More, kind of conservative, some half conservative, half liberal. Like like
Yeah.
half of our lives we didn't have technology, the other half
Yeah.
we have.
Yeah.
We're open-minded yet kind of not. We're just weird kind of like mix.
No, yeah, I totally.
How would you describe Gen Z?
We're definitely difficult. So, like we're a fun group. However, I think what motivates the generation would honestly be money. I think we've seen our families struggle way too much, and you see a lot of Gen Z give a lot of like their paycheck or extra money just to their family to maybe this could be just from like the Hispanic side of it. I could be completely wrong, but I do know like my family, like we help each other wherever it can be, whether it's money or you just need a bed to sleep on. So I think we're very nurturing and caring when it comes to like, oh, you need help, let me help you versus like, you can figure it out. So so I do think we are a little bit more softer than your generations per se. Like I grew up saying you got to cut, you fell off your bike, rub some dirt on it. So versus like
That
now
is
you
my
kind of
generation. Yep, you're
versus
right.
like yeah versus like now you kind of hear, well, how are you feeling? Let's talk about your emotions. Let's talk about your feelings. So and that's kind of where like the nurturing comes into play. So I do think that's kind of more or less what we are. But I would say money. We're very money hungry, and I think it's just to give back. back to their family.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great description. So tell me, do you like to read?
I do and I don't. I think I like reading books that fascinate me. I think I've had just bad books from school and they just kind of made me like not like reading. I do want to get back into it. I've read one book back in college that kind of helped me work in like a male dominated sport or industry. So I do want to get back into reading. Yes.
Yeah, okay. And what do you remember the name of that book that you really liked?
I completely blanked on it. So I know it has to do with like finances and which is
Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah, that's okay. And I mean, my love for reading has come and gone over the years, and then it finally kind of stuck when I set some goals
yeah.
and read my age every year. So, do you listen to podcasts?
Every now and then I like to listen to music. I love listening to music. And there's one song that's like a little older. I play it on repeat whenever I have like a bad day or I feel like someone said something that kind of like took me down. It's it's called Who Says by Selena Gomez.
Okay.
And she just talks about like who says you can't be perfect? Who says you can't be worthy? Who says you can't be president? And so she basically kind of talks about like I've been told that before and look where I'm at. So that's kind of the song that's my go-to song.
I love it. Empowerment. It's all about empowerment.
Exactly.
Very
Yeah.
cool. So, how do you lift women up?
Oh man, I push them to their limits. So if there's a job offer, for instance, the gal that took the service and retention that's no longer here, a great friend of mine still, like I said, she got her bachelor's in like hotel industry, like almost building hotels. And I was like, this is like a complete 180, like from what you learned, like what got you into it. So she kind of told me her backstory. And so she was offered a job that fit perfect into what she studied. And she felt almost guilty to kind of take it because she just started with the Grizzlies. And I told her, I said, look, jobs are going to come and go, money's going to come and go, but you went to college for this. You paid tuition for this. If that's truly what your passion is, go for it. Like who's going to say no?
Hmm.
No one except for you. Like you're literally holding yourself back. So that's definitely how I help women. I push them to their limits, whether it's a good push or a bad push. And sometimes a bad push could be like, you never know, just jump into deep waters. You never know. And that's kind of what we need because you're not going to drown.
Yeah.
You're going to figure it out. So
And
yeah,
is she happy in her role?
she loves her job. She loves
Good.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times we're women, especially, we're driven by guilt, and like we don't want to let people down, and that's not a
Yeah.
bad thing, but really thinking about what our goals are and what I call being self-full,
Hmm.
and is not being selfish by putting ourselves first. And
Exactly.
yeah, and it's a dream job and a dream organization for her. Good for her, and good for you for being such a good friend to say encourage her to
Thanks.
that's awesome. What is your dream job? I mean, you're coming into your second year in sports. What would you like
Yeah.
to see yourself do when you're my age, middle aged, and closer to retirement than closer to?
Yeah. Um, I have always wanted to work in fan engagement of some sort. So, kind of what I was talking with the whole boxing deal, I helped my dad with his boxers. We put on professional boxing fights here in Utah, and this year we have 3 fights, and I'm in charge of kind of controlling the fights. So, in a way, it's like game ops, but also like fan engagement. So, I worked with like the graphics, and I love doing the graphics and posting on social media and making sure like fan engagement is there. But I also really liked, having the headset and being in control. Like I love that just because you don't see many females one doing it and let alone just like in sports is like it's so fascinating. And so I was kind of like the person that was like, I made a script and we had a very specific timeline. I'm like, okay, this boxer, cue their walkout. Okay, walking out. Then I tell the announcer, cue the intro. Okay, cue the fight. So That's my ideal job. Is I want to work in fan engagement or potentially within game ops, a game controller of some sort. That's my ideal position.
Yeah, you like to be in charge.
I
I love
love
it.
it.
And here's the thing. You did something really smart. So I just want to, for anyone who's interested in getting into sports, and Flocka did this. What I tell people, no matter what your dream job is, go into sales because there's more revenue generating positions than there are anything else. So game operations is actually a really popular role in professional sports, but guess how many there are, especially at our level. There's like one role per team. So you're looking for a needle in a haystack, but if you once you get in and you're generating revenue, understanding the products we sell, how to sell them, and working with fans, and then that position opens up, you're set up, or you're already poised in the league if you choose to move to a different state, or and you build those relationships. So I want to point
Exactly.
that out, that starting in sales, and I have a whole thing on sales isn't a dirty word, like, because
That's
we're always all selling, by the way, like,
exactly.
but it, especially in sports, selling sports is fun. Like, if you don't want to
Yeah.
come, okay, someone else will.
Right. Exactly.
So I applaud you, and I have no doubt that you're going to accomplish your dreams. And
Thank you.
as we wrap up, I want to congratulate you on your being first generation with your
Thank
bachelor's and
you.
master's degree. It's especially as a woman, as a Hispanic woman, and I just want to lift you up for that because I know how much hard work goes into that. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Really, I do. Thank you.
So if people want to connect with you, Flocka, where can they find you?
I have LinkedIn and then I also have Instagram.
Okay, and just under your Flaca Solano.
You could look that up. Normally, so my LinkedIn is Flaca Solano, and then my Instagram is Flaca Boxing.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, very simple.
And if you're in Utah and it's hockey season, go to a Utah Grizzlies game. You can get tickets
Yes.
online or at the box office.
Yes.
We're not playing each other this season, unfortunately.
I know. I saw that.
Unless we'll make a run for the Kelly Cup. Maybe we'll end up in the finals against each other.
Never know.
You never know. Well, it has been such an honor to have you on, and to
Thank
get to
you.
know you even better. And I love the work that we're doing together to lift women in sports up. And I'm going to see you next month in Orlando.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you all are looking to connect with me, I'm not hard to find. If you're interested in the hockey side of my life, kwings.com. For the coaching side of my life, lifestyle coaching, mindfulnesselevated.com. Professional development coaching, tonywill.com. And I'm only on 3 social media platforms because that's all this girl can handle. So LinkedIn and Facebook at Tony Lentini Will. And I'm on Instagram, I'm Tony Will. And until next time.